going to move on then to Colin's third film, which I had considered suggesting for something I'd had in mind of. Well, the nascent idea I had, Scott, was unconventional Christmas films. That we might have done an episode on that at some point, and this was one of the first names to go into that idea, which is Tokyo Godfathers, which is an unconventional Christmas film-ish.
Yeah, Christmas, often stylised, of course, as a magical time of the year. And although ultimately that is the case in the 2003 outing Tokyo Godfathers, the lead characters probably would not agree at the outset. Three homeless people have banded together into a loose, argumentative family unit. The teenage runaway Miyuki, gruff alcoholic and apparent victim of normative determinism, Jin, and maternal former drag queen Hannah, whose stretched sense of togetherness is tested further when they find an abandoned newborn baby in the garbage on Christmas Eve. While Jin's looking to go immediately to the authorities, it seems Hannah is looking on this as something of a miracle and wants to keep the child. After all, the previous parents clearly weren't parenting correctly. This soon fades, and over the course of the Christmas holidays, they seek to care for and ultimately reunite the kid with their family. The investigation itself will, however, uncover more about their own characters' past than that of the kid, often prompted by moments of such extreme coincidence that maybe thinking of it in terms of miracles is not completely unfounded. I certainly don't have anything negative to say about Tokyo Godfathers. The closest I can get to it is thinking that the final revelation about the true parents of the newborn makes for a bit of a last act drama bomb that ultimately I don't think is needed, because the primary reasons to enjoy the film, aside from the usual con table stakes of it simply being a beautiful thing visually and audibly, is the interplay between Miyuki, Jin and Hannah, which is rarely less than delightful. That said, Tokyo Godfathers is perhaps a more straightforward narrative than you'd come to expect from Con, at least in as much as whether it does provide a few revelations and twists, they come through good old-fashioned character development rather than through smashing realities together and having surprises fall out. It's not exactly Con's take on the straight story, but it's at least a straighter story than his others. As such, there's probably an argument to be made that it's Con's least interesting work, on a narrative sense. However, there's an equally valid counter-argument to be made that the absence of world-bending frippery has allowed the characters the time and space to be a more rounded and well-realised ensemble than in any of his other films. I suppose you pays your money and you takes your choice. However, as mentioned previously, the only valid choice is to watch all of Con's films, as they, Tokyo Godfathers included, come with their seal of huge enjoyability. Well, figuratively speaking, I couldn't get the distribution for the actual seals sorted out in time, but yes, with its roster of colourful characters in both personality and design sense, it's a delight to spend 90-odd minutes with it.
Yeah, and I'd actually add that there's a fourth major character in Tokyo Godfathers, and that's Tokyo.
Yeah.
I really like the way it's portrayed here. I've not, unfortunately, been to Tokyo, but I've kind of been fascinated by the place for a long time and seen a lot of films set there. And this feels, as much as you can tell through the medium of film in particular, an animated one, it kind of feels quite different, but in a way more real than a lot of the ones I've seen. It's certainly less detached, which I guess is a big part of such a big city as Tokyo, but I don't know, just the way the buildings are drawn, and they love the attention to detail in this film. In fact, all of Con's films, like the incredible caretaking with the Macintosh performer in Perfect Blue to make sure that's all exactly right. And then little touches here, like the sandwich wrappers and the things in the grocery stores, that sort of thing. Yeah. But the city seems to have that sort of same thing as well. Just the way the streets are done, the whole feel of it. It's not a pretty easy thing to describe. I think it's the visual, the sound, the tension. It all just comes together just to give it this city a certain feel. Yeah. That maybe with a kind of slightly magical touch, which fits in with all of the rest of what's happening, because it's miracles that are happening, because it takes coincidence and goes way beyond coincidence. It's miracles. It's the only way to explain it, which is fine, because I don't like films that are based on coincidence, but this is quite clearly not that. It's very deliberate. Where was I going with that? I think I was just the whole thing came to us with Tokyo just being this character as well, that it's, oh God, I don't know. Tokyo's good. So is what I'm saying. I had considerably more cohesive thoughts the night after I watched this again, and I was getting really tired. I thought, I won't write these down, I'll remember them in the morning, and I didn't. And I was really frustrated, and I wasn't going to go back and watch it again just for that. So that'll learn me. I'll not do that again till the next time I do that again. And lots of like little touches here that I don't remember noticing last time, or at least I don't remember whether I noticed them or not. Like when they're at the Christian mission at the beginning, they're getting food, and Hannah's talking about, oh, I wish I'd been blessed with a child, and maybe there'd be a miracle, and I can have a child with this male body that I don't really like and don't want. And the poor woman serving a soup, and he goes, oh, you better give me a good one, I'm eating for two. And she's just like standing there slack-jawed looking at him. Then a short while later, after they've got the baby and they're in the train station and they're on the phone, and that same woman's coming down the stairs or the escalator, and she just like looks and goes, there was a miracle. It's like, and there's lots of little touches like that, little callbacks that like kind of blinking you'd miss it sort of things. It's a really richly textured world that he's created in this film.
Yeah, I think that's maybe Con's so good at structure in his films. That's what really shines through. And even though it's not doing the kind of structure the way that he does in other films where he's like trying to blend things together, he's still managing to blend little character moments throughout it. And he's got a really great eye for how a jigsaw of a script should be put together to kind of maximise enjoyability. And I guess that's just part of that skill set that he has, and that is so sadly missed from a lot of other films.
Yeah, it's... for him and his family more than anybody else, it's a tragedy of the world that he died so young, and with having only managed to produce the 4 films.
Yes.
It's like, what, because he was he's clearly so gifted, and like, what have we missed out on?
Oh, yeah.
Also, there's some kind of like wonderfully kind of wacky things in here. It's just not a word I would tend to particularly like, but I can't think of another one to describe it. Like the end credits where Beethoven's Ode to Joy is sung in Japanese over the footage of the Tokyo Tower dancing.
Yes.
Okay, I like this. I'm on board. You're right. It is kind of more conventional, this, but it's just so lovely.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of humour go through Con's films as well, which really helps. So even at the points where things are getting a bit darker, it will leaven it with a bit of humour, but it's never like a tonal whiplash kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's just such a lovely film.